Tonight, we look at the most frequent types of 911 calls provincially in 2023, with ECOM issuing a reminder on what constitutes an emergency. Plus, a preview of the 23rd annual Polar Bear Dip at the Ness Lake Bible Camp is preparing for its return on New Year's Day, and this might be the warmest one we've ever had. And the Prince George Cougars bounced back last night thanks to a clutch goal by Captain Hudson Thornton. Good evening, folks. I'm Eddie Huband, and welcome to CKPG News. Our top story tonight, BC's largest emergency communication center is issuing a reminder on what constitutes an emergency call amidst record-breaking year for calls to 911. ECOM has released its 10th annual list of nuisance calls, and every one of those calls takes away from actual emergency situations. Adam Burles has the story.
British Columbia saw an increase of 13% in call volume to 911 in 2023, and part of that 13% were nuisance calls.
If you look at the list, quite a few of these seem to be customer service oriented, not really police matters.
Among the calls in the top 10 list included a call to 911 asking for directions home from a Drake concert. One was asking 911 why the traffic light was taking too long to turn green, and another call was complaining that the person's barber gave them a bad haircut. Despite these ridiculous calls, 911 has to take each and every one of them seriously.
Every time a call comes in, we need to take the time to determine if this call is an emergency or not, and if our caller is safe. And that takes a little bit of time, and a call taker cannot disconnect until they have determined that the caller is safe.
ECOM is reminding the public that 911 should be used for emergency situations only.
911 is for police, fire, or medical emergencies where immediate attention is required, and someone's health, safety, or property is in jeopardy, or crime is in progress. And the important thing to know when you call 911 is it's really important to have an idea of your location.
This is because many calls come in through cell phones, where it may be hard for dispatchers to find where exactly you are. ECOM is also reminding folks to take a couple of extra seconds to think before making a call to 911.
Many of these calls would be better directed to customer service lines, the Better Business Bureau, the city, bylaws, instead of the police, because there's not much the police can do if you get a bad haircut.
Adam Burles, CKPG News.
The 23rd annual Polar Bear Dip is preparing for its return on New Year's Day, and this might be the warmest one we've ever seen. Tommy Osborne has more now on how preparations are going and what the dip is all about for the Ness Lake Bible Camp.
Polar bear dip this year? Maybe more like a bear dip, given that there may not be much polar about it. The current forecast says New Year's Day will only be -2 degrees, which is great for newcomers, but may leave some of the hardcore swimmers wanting more.
The most memorable dips I have are the coldest ones. The coldest ones, you go in, you get in the water, and you come out and you really feel like you've done something crazy. The water's evaporating off your body, your hair freezes. Something like this is cool. I think this is also the most accessible year. Like if people are like, I don't want to go in, this is your year.
The warm weather also, of course, impacts ice thickness, and given its relative thinness to years past, there are some potential safety concerns to keep in mind. While the dip will still happen like normal, the thinner ice will cause some changes.
Safety is always a first concern for us, so we're just managing the crowd different this year. So we're really encouraging people to not be on the ice. The snowmobilers that usually come out in your car, come out in your van, come out in your truck. But to stand in groups on this ice is not an amazing idea.
Safety is more of a focus than normal, but the dip itself is still safe. So that shouldn't stop you from doing the dip and helping Ness Lake Bible Camp's efforts to send kids to camp that otherwise may not be able to afford it.
We've raised as much as 30 grand and sometimes just 10 grand, but 10 grand is amazing, and I'd be happy to see 10 grand again this year. One kid to camp, depending on the camp that they choose, is anywhere between $200 to $400, somewhere in there. And so this program helps subsidize that cost.
Beyond funding great summer memories, summer camps are fantastic for children's mental health. Being outside, meeting new people, getting physical activity, these are all huge in healthy mental development for children, and a dip in Ness Lake can help make it all happen.
They enjoy their week and they want to be outside way more by the end of the week than they do at the beginning. We do have a Nintendo Switch, so it helps with the transition, but a lot of them would rather be on the zip line or canoeing than playing Nintendo Switch, so it's really cool to see the transition throughout the week as kids enjoy the outdoors.
If colder weather has prevented you from doing the polar bear dip before, well, this block of ice tells the whole story. You can see there's only around 2 inches of clear frozen ice there. Other years, there can be up to 14 or 18 inches of frozen ice. The weather could possibly be the warmest it's ever been. So come on down to Ness Lake and help send kids to camp with a bit of a fun dip. Tommy Osborne, CKPG News.
The first New Year's baby has always been a topic of interest for many, but did you know you can literally bet on where BC's first baby will be born? Tommy Osborne has more now on how you can make a buck from a baby.
30-1. That's the odds that BC's first baby of 2024 will be born in Prince George. That means if you bet $10, you would win $300. But how do you do this? It's surprisingly easy, as BC Play Now is the one running this.
Novelty bets as a whole are a growing area of interest among BC sports bettors on playnow.com. These bets are supposed to be fun and focus again on the water cooler topic. So we hope British Columbians have fun with it, because we certainly do too.
How do they come up with the odds? Similar to sports betting, it's purely a numbers game.
We determine the odds based off of birth data, which is actually readily available from BC Vital Statistics. It's very detailed data, in fact, as well. You know, you can break down the number of births in each BC community every year. We also factor in the population of the BC cities and towns that we're featuring when we're setting the odds.
Besides being an interesting bet, Lee says the revenue generated from gambling goes straight back into the community, since BC Play Now is a government-run betting organization and the only legal gambling website in the province.
All of the revenue generated by playnow.com goes back to the province to support things like education, healthcare, and community programs. So last fiscal year, we were able to deliver $294 million in net income to the province from revenue generated by playnow.com.
Do you think that Prince George will have 2024's first baby in the province? If so, you can bet on BC Play Now to put your money where your mouth is. Just recently, Prince George got pretty close. We had a baby born 9 minutes after the midnight mark, but it still wasn't enough to be the very first. But maybe 2024 is the year where Prince George welcomes BC's newest community member of the new year. Tommy Osborne, CKPG News.
The lowest gas price in Prince George is currently sitting at $1.44.9 a litre at Costco. The lowest price in the province right now is in Williams Lake at $1.39.9 per litre. Alberta currently has the lowest fuel prices on average in the country at $1.15.4 per litre, while BC has an average price of $1.61 per litre.
A mix of sun and cloud to get us into the weekend in the Prince George area. Looks like more of the same tomorrow. Temperatures starting to cool off, even more so as we get out of this weekend and into next week, but certainly for tomorrow. And for the rest of today, we are looking at relatively clear skies, a few patchy clouds here and there. Our precipitation also expected to begin shifting as we get into the weekend, so definitely be mindful of that. Here's today's air quality, looking pretty good in the Prince George area. Still have a little bit of wind. It's definitely noticeable. That is expected to continue in our overnight period, hitting around that 20K mark. So it is definitely something to make note of. Here's our air quality for Quesnel, also looking pretty good. A little bit lighter of a wind speed in the Quesnel area heading into our evening. Similar in Vanderhoof as well, again, with some pretty good air quality in Vanderhoof. Here's our snapshot of the day. This one was sent to us by Tasha Wright. Look at that, a little bit, almost a hint of snow, more so like frost. That's kind of been the case. It's a bit of a weird year for precipitation. A lot of green areas, a little bit unusual for this time of year. If you have any pictures when you're out and about over the weekend, over this New Year's Eve weekend, please send them in to be considered for our snapshot of the day all throughout next week. You can send your photos through a few avenues on Facebook, Instagram, or email those pictures to us. That email on screen is snapshot@ckpg.com. We have your full weather coming up shortly.
Thanks very much, Delana. We will check back in later on in the show. But for now, MLA Mike Morris has been in politics for over 10 years now, but his time in politics is coming to a close as he announced his retirement back in March. Adam Burrell sat down with Mike and tells us what defined 2023 for him.
Mike Morris is a veteran of BC politics, first entering the legislature in Victoria back in 2013, and has held many cabinet positions, including Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. In opposition, Morris acknowledged the challenges that come with being on the other side of the aisle.
When you're in opposition, trying to get those kinds of successes are very limited. In fact, they're non-existent. And you know, your job as an opposition member, which ours has been for the last 7 years of my tenure, is trying to get government to change their direction in a number of different areas and address the issues that we see in the interior of the province here.
In March, Morris announced that he would not be running in the next election, and health issues played a big part in that decision.
I became ill early on in the year and ultimately diagnosed with bladder cancer. And I had surgery in May, and it was a mortality check for me. You know, I'm 70 years old, and as anybody knows, as you get older in life, your runway gets a little bit shorter at the end of the day. So, you know, I looked at, you know, that I've got 7 grandchildren, I've got a wonderful family, I've got lots of lakes that I haven't fished, a lot of things that I haven't done that, you know, this life as a politician, as an MLA, have prevented me from doing.
One highlight of this year was a recognition of Morris's work with biodiversity and wildlife conservation.
I was recognized by the Canadian Wildlife Federation and won their Legislator of the Year award for the work that I've done with biodiversity and wildlife conservation in Canada, or here in British Columbia. So that was a surprise for me, and a pleasant surprise.
I asked Mike what he will miss the most about being an MLA.
The people. You know, you get out in the public and you get to talk to just such a variety of passionate people. You know, when people come to me with an issue, they're passionate about it. And we have an opportunity to sit down and discuss those different issues. And oftentimes it provides me with the information that I need to make that argument in the legislature and in the House.
With over 50 years of public service, Morris is looking forward to retirement.
Retirement is when you can afford to quit your day job and do whatever you want for as long as you want, or as short as you want, for as much as you want, or as little as you want. And I thought that was a pretty good definition.
Adam Burles, CKPG News.
From local politics to American politics, Adam Burles joins us now to speak about the upcoming 2024 election in the States and how it will impact us here in Canada. So, Adam, there's been some big news regarding the Republican primaries and the former president, Donald Trump. Can you tell us more about what's going on with the primaries?
Yes. So right now, the Republicans are going through their primary and caucus process to determine who will be their candidate for the 2024 election. The former U.S. President Donald Trump is the front runner among the party nationwide, it seems like currently. But Maine yesterday has taken a decision. Their Secretary of State, who is a Democrat at the state level, has disqualified the former president from being on the state's ballot in the next year U.S. presidential election. This follows the Colorado Supreme Court's decision to disqualify Trump from the state primary ballot. So what we're talking about here is states taking matters into their own hands in determining whether the former U.S. president should be on the ballot come next election in November, and whether he should be on, what the main focus is right now is whether he should be on the Republican primary ballot to determine whether he should be eligible to get to the National Convention and whether he should be the candidate in November.
Now, I had another question in mind, but this is so interesting. I just want to ask you this, Adam. You know, there's been a lot of talk about whether or not this is going to be a real hindrance for him getting back into office. My question is, even if other states fall in line with what Colorado and Maine have done, is this going to matter?
If you're in the eyes of the former president, I don't think this matters. President Trump has broken many boundaries in his time in office and in his public life, so I don't think this is going to stop him per se. I mean, states can do so much. They can only do so much. If things come to a head, it will go to the Supreme Court,
right,
which I will remind that 3 justices he appointed to the Supreme Court. So will this stop him? I don't think so. I think there's a lot that's going to keep propelling him forward in this race. He's not done yet.
And obviously, if he is elected as the president once again, major impacts to Canada.
Yes, NAFTA, there was a big broil over NAFTA when he was in office in 2016 to 2020, so lots could happen with a second Trump presidency, but we'll have to wait to see what the voters will say in November 2024 already.
Yes, it's going to be an interesting year down in the States. And Adam,
Indeed.
Ironically, this week's Entertainment Spotlight is a film that directly relates to this discussion that Adam and I just had. So we're going to show it to you now. Enjoy. This week on Entertainment Spotlight, we're looking at an upcoming action war film set to come out in the spring, Civil War, starring Kristen Dunst, known to many as Mary Jane Watson from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man films, and Wagner Moura, who many will know as his role of Pablo Escobar in the hit Netflix series Narcos. This movie is directed by acclaimed filmmaker Alex Garland, who rose to prominence with his hit horror film 28 Days Later from the early 2000s. In this film, Civil War, set in the near future, a team of journalists travel across the United States during a rapidly escalating civil war that has engulfed the entire nation.
Are you guys aware there's like a pretty huge civil war going on all across America?
We just try to stay out. With what we see on the news, seems like it's for the best.
Society is struggling to survive during the near-future civil war, where the government becomes a dystopian dictatorship and partisan extremist militias regularly commit political violence.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here. What? Well, you're American, okay? Okay. What kind of American are you? You don't know?
This looks to be quite a disturbing film, mainly because given the civil unrest in the United States these days and the upcoming election set for next year, the events in this movie don't quite seem outside the realm of possibility. This promises to be a gritty, action-packed political insight into the divided society in the United States. Civil War is scheduled to be released in theaters by A24 production company on April 26th, 2024.
You're gonna hang back.
I'm not hanging back.
One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Feed your team tonight with a delicious mix-and-match combo. Chicken, pizza, pasta, or dessert for just $8.99 per item.
The Prince George Cougars went head-to-head against the Calgary Hitmen last night, looking for a better result than their Wednesday night loss against Edmonton. Caitlin Pobersnick is here to break down last night's game.
It was a nice bounce-back game for the Cougars last night, not as high-scoring, but just as entertaining. The first period started off with a twist, though, as one of the Hitmen's top players, Carter Yakimchuk, received a misconduct just 24 seconds into the game. Cougars' Keaton Dahania capitalized on the power play opportunity, getting his first goal of the season. Zach Funk then extended their lead 2-0. Calgary managed to outshoot the hometown team 15-6 in the second period, but only took advantage of one of the shots. Ethan Moore put one past starting goaltender Ty Young, who stood on his head for the Cats in his 35-save performance, 2-1 heading into the final minutes. It was a nail-biter third period as the Hitmen closed the gap 2-all. Ty Young continued to stand strong between the pipes, though. With 1:40 left in the game, Riley Heights' offensive zone face-off win gave Captain Hudson Thornton the chance to unleash a one-timer from the blue line to get the game-winning goal. The Cougars have yet to lose in back-to-back games. They now set sail for a 5-game road trip starting off in Kamloops on Saturday.
What a snipe by the captain. And after scoring that game-winning goal last night, it's only fair he gets a feature story. Caitlin Pobersnick brings you more on the Cougars captain, Hudson Thornton.
You probably wouldn't be surprised to hear that the Prince George Cougars captain, Hudson Thornton, has been playing hockey since he learned how to walk. The Winnipeg native grew up in skates, and that was the beginning of what is a successful career.
Being from Canada, any young kid obviously wants to play hockey, and I was fortunate enough to have two older brothers that played and just kind of grew up in the rink.
Thornton's junior career didn't start with the Cougars, and for that he is grateful, saying he wouldn't be as successful in the WHL had he come to Prince George right off the hop.
I think when I got drafted, I was pretty undersized. I think I was 5'7" and 160 pounds. So, the big thing for me and my family was, if we were going to come to the Western League, it was going to be a time when I could step in and be an effective player right away.
Play. Hudson Thornton with it, shoots, goal!
we just figured going junior A route first might give me a bit more time to grow and develop my game. And ultimately when we decided to sign in Prince George, I felt like I could come in and be an effective player every night, and kind of not surviving on the ice, and being a player that could produce and help our team win. And I think I signed at the right time and came in, and obviously signing's been the best decision of my life, and I loved every moment of playing in Prince George.
Humble is an understatement when it comes to Thornton's outlook on holding franchise records. To name a couple, the Cats captain has the record for most points by a defenseman and goals by a defenseman in a single season, sitting at 72 and 23.
I just look back at my years here, and none of that's even possible without the teams that I've played for, and obviously the guys that I've played with. And I look at it more as kind of a team accomplishment than just an individual stat.
As much as the D-man has made a mark in the city, Prince George has made a mark on him.
I know it's funny, when I got drafted here, I remember the night before, people were like, if anybody gets drafted to Prince George tomorrow, like, I feel bad for you. And I didn't really pay too much attention to it, and day went on and obviously got drafted. And I just thought the moment I walked here, those people were so far from the truth. This community is so awesome. The sports community here is unreal, and I love waking up in Prince George and kind of calling myself being from Prince George almost. I'm walking in as a young guy, and obviously I'm going to be leaving as a man now, and I wouldn't have changed any other way. I've been really fortunate to spend the last 3 years here, and this community and this town and obviously this team's had a big part of my life.
Caitlin Poversnick, CKPG News.
The TSX is up 29 points to close at 20,959. The Dow Jones is down 21 points to close at 37,690. And Artemis Gold went up 2 cents to close at $6.32.
A fair amount of blue sky seen today, really all throughout the province, in particular in the Prince George area. It looks like we're in store to see some more blue sky tomorrow, but with that, a little bit more cloud cover. That will only increase as we get further into the weekend, and that's kind of the case really all throughout, in particular on BC's coastal areas. Here's our futurecast. So over the next 48 hours, we are expecting a little bit of precipitation in those early morning hours throughout our Saturday morning, possibly again as we get into that Sunday morning period, a chance of some wet flurries, depending on what elevation you're sitting at. More of that precipitation, though, still hitting BC's south, central, and north coast areas. Highs tomorrow across the province, Terrace and Prince Rupert, both looking relatively cloudy and a little bit wet still. Terrace with a high of about 4 degrees. Prince Rupert actually still in the double digits tomorrow with a high of around 11. That's very similar on the island for Victoria and Vancouver. Kelowna also with a chance of precipitation, a little bit cooler with a high of +5. Kamloops looking at a high of around 7 degrees tomorrow. And as mentioned, Prince George, we have a high of around 5 degrees. Highs tomorrow across the rest of the broadcast region. Mackenzie with a high of around 4 degrees. Fort St. James starting to cool off a little bit, still getting a mix of sun and cloud in the forecast. Vanderhoof still looking quite pleasant, pretty mild for this time of year, right around 6 degrees. Across the rest of the country tomorrow, Whitehorse also looking a little bit warm for this time of year, right around -1. Yellowknife -5. Edmonton has a high of +3, a little bit cooler in Regina tomorrow. Winnipeg, chance of flurries and -6, so beginning to cool off and seeing a lot less sunshine than what they've been getting this week. And of course, as you get further out into eastern Canada, especially in the Maritimes, seeing more cloud cover, more wind, and cooler temperatures. Looking ahead, it is looking relatively cloudy, especially as we finish off the weekend. Sunday evening in particular for a lot of areas, seeing more cloud cover and starting to notice those temperatures taking a bit of a dive. Extended forecast, so tonight for the Burns Lake area, getting down to around -4 overnight. Tomorrow, a chance of some icy rain. Be mindful of that if you're heading out on any road trips in the Burns Lake area. Daytime high around +2, getting down to -12 overnight. So that's where you're going to start noticing the temperatures take a bit of a shift. Sunday, high of -3. That continues really all throughout the early part of next week with a chance of some precipitation in the mix. So maybe some wet flurries and some snowfall. Extended forecast for the Mackenzie Mackenzie area, a chance of showers late this evening. As mentioned, that precipitation moving in from the coast in the further inland for BC, getting down to around -3, warming up tomorrow with a high of +4 and a mix of sun and cloud. Cooling off though Sunday. That trend continues basically every day as we head into the early part of next week. McBride area also looking at a relatively cloudy evening ahead, a little bit cooler as well at around -3 this evening, picking up to around +6 tomorrow with some sunshine in the forecast. So likely seeing some blue sky in McBride tomorrow. Sunday though, a chance of flurries and a little bit more cloud cover building in. Quesnel area also looking relatively mild tomorrow with a high of around 8 degrees, cooling off for Sunday, still getting a sun cloud mix. And in the Prince George area, very similar. So looking at a mix of sun and cloud to start off the weekend on Saturday, still going to be getting some blue skies thrown in there, around 5 degrees for tomorrow's daytime high, a little bit cooler overnight. Sunday starting to cool off, still pretty pleasant temperatures right around +3 with a mix of sun and cloud.
CKPG Sports is delivered by Domino's. Feed your team tonight with a delicious mix and match combo. Chicken, pizza, pasta, or dessert for just $8.99 per item.
The Spruce Kings are back on the ice tonight for the first time since Christmas break against Kelowna. Caitlin Pobersnick caught up with voice of the Kings, Jack Clark, earlier today to preview the big game.
We're here at Copar Memorial Arena with Mr. Jack Clark, a familiar face ahead of tonight's game against West Kelowna. Now the boys are practicing behind us, doing their little morning skate. It's been a while since they've played a game. They didn't play since before the Christmas break against Trail. Now they had a hard first game, losing 7-8, scored 7 goals, still managed to not get the win on that one. And then they did pull out the win the next day. And your new goalie, Charlie Zolan, had a shutout, first one of the season. So do you just kind of want to recap that game for us a little bit?
Yeah, it was one of the craziest weekends of the season. I think, you know, that 8-7 loss to Trail on the Friday night, which was the drop the gloves and sock 'em to 'em night. It was a crazy game. I kind of describe it as pond hockey a little bit. A lot of back and forth, a lot of chances, not a whole lot of defense, but you mentioned it the night after on the Saturday night, the complete opposite for the Spruce Kings, a 3-0 win. Great defense in front of Charlie Zolan, who, as Caitlin mentioned, picked up his first shutout as a Spruce King. He was incredible. The defense was a lot more solid, and you know, 3 goals was enough compared to Friday night when 7 goals didn't get the job done.
Now this weekend, first game back, playing West Kelowna, a team that they've been fairly neutral with this whole entire season. Do you just kind of want to touch on the fact that, you know, this is the first game coming out of the break? It could either go poorly or really well. They could either still have, you know, holiday legs, or they could be ready to come back and play some good hockey.
Yeah, I mean, who knows, right? I mean, just like you and I and everybody else who was celebrating Christmas, we had a couple days off work, and so did the Spruce Kings. So who knows how they're going to come out tonight. One thing I will say, though, a big advantage now for the Spruce Kings is, of course, being at home here tonight. For the last couple of years, this has been a team that's kind of been unfortunate with the schedule, whether they've headed down to the lower mainland and even Wenatchee when they were in the BCHL. So being at home, having West Kelowna come up here to Copar Memorial Arena, we both know playing here in Prince George is a different feeling, not only for the team on the ice, but the fans off the ice.
Now, talking about a lot of fun, I don't think Lyndon McCow is going to have the best night tonight because he's not playing. A pretty star player for you guys. Managed to get into another fight before the break, which means that he is suspended.
Lyndon McCow did fight for the second time this year now in the BCHL. That is a 1-game suspension. So no Lyndon McCow tonight. That really hurts, of course. He's been on fire before the Christmas break. He was our leading point scorer. I believe he had something along the lines of 10 to 11 points in 4 or 5 games. So he had been playing really, really well, and he'll be missed tonight in the lineup for sure.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Jack. As I said, the boys are on the ice right now, but they'll also be back on the ice later tonight for puck drop at 7 o'clock. If you want to come down, there's tons of space. You can come enjoy their first game back. But other than that, I will send it back to you in the studio, Eddie.
All right, some misplays and good games all on tonight's CKP3. Enjoy.
Let's kick things off with a hustle play for 6 points.
Low-scoring game. Brown's offense continue to shine.
Well, play action, a little flip there, and then it's picked off. That's Jermaine Johnson is going to take it all the way to the end zone.
Jermaine Johnson brought some much-needed life to the Jets, but it wasn't enough in the end as the Browns took this one home with a 37-20 victory. Next up, hey, at least they made it to overtime.
Short. Rebound, yes! 4.6 to go with time.
White, straightaway three. Yes!
The Pistons made it a close game but couldn't keep it up in OT. They continue their historic losing streak, making it their 28th straight loss. Finally, one of 6 interceptions Arizona had last night against Oklahoma.
Spot intercepted. Arizona gets the break that they need. It's Gunnar Maldonado. He's got blockers. Here goes number 9. Stoops the last man to beat. Touchdown, Arizona.
Nice little pick 6 to help Arizona close the gap to eventually pull ahead of the Sooners, winning 38-24 to take top spot in tonight's CKP3.
New Year's Eve is almost upon us, and Sam Benison has the scoop now on people's plans here in Prince George and what folks are wanting to do around town. Here's what they had to say.
Happy New Year's. There's plenty of opportunities in Prince George to ring in 2024. So we asked people around town what their New Year's Eve plans are.
My New Year's plan is just to stay home with family and enjoy Lily night. I know there's one that's called New Year's resolution.
Visit around and just explore and spread the love and the sharing, caring, and
we're going to Mackenzie. We're gonna go see some buddies up there, and then we're gonna drive home to Salmon Arm on New Year's Day. Happy New Year!
Happy New Year's!
To get healthier than when I am now. To keep on going to the swimming pool. I look forward to it every day.
Probably just R&R, relaxing and staying at home. No drinking, just behaving.
But after work, we are planning to go to club, and there we will celebrate the New Year with some shots in our hands, and we will cherish that moment with the friends and with the fellow colleagues that we will meet there.
Whether you're celebrating New Year's Eve with friends or family, or getting some much needed relaxation, from all of us at CKPG, have a safe and happy 2024.
All right, that's our show for tonight, folks. Thanks for joining us as always. We did it. It's the end of the week. And as Sam said, it's the end of the year. Have a great weekend. Enjoy, party responsibly, and we will see you in 2024. Have a good night.